Try not to shit your pants. Okay, let's go. Oh my god, the shot! You see this?
I don't see nothing on the screen. Nothing on your screen.
Prepárate con todo para esta copa.
Mercado Libre.
So you guys have been asking me to cover the My Little Pony infection AU called Virus Z for a while now, and I avoided this one.
No.
How do you see it? How do you see it?
No.
Okay, guys, let's go.
One, because
see,
I
by the
assumed that
way?
it was going to be like the movie World War Z, but just with ponies instead of like regular zombies. And I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that this one had a very cool twist to it, and it was also a lot darker than I anticipated. Now, unlike most of My Little Pony AUs, this one starts off in the human world, or more accurately, the Equestria Girls universe. And one of the first things that we can see here are the logs from a scientist that simply goes by Scientist E. And their first log basically tells us that they created some pathogen, which just means virus in simple terms.
So
And
my
this
iPad at 10%, Michael.
Bro, you gotta be joking me.
What?
Okay, try charging it back.
virus has the potential to turn humans into man-eating beasts. And the only reason that the scientists created this virus is to make money, knowing that if they also made a cure, people would pay a fortune for a vaccine. This next panel shows this young lady who's used as a test subject, but then we see that she actually managed to break out of the test tube.
Yeah,
and this
they're
wouldn't
good,
have been
bro.
such a huge deal if the scientists had already made the cure, but since they didn't, this is pretty much the start
I
of
did
a
the same
world-ending
thing to
type
you
of event.
after.
And if you thought that I was exaggerating, the next log shows us that it
just
only
means
took
I'm
8
gonna get
days to completely take over the
terrified
city
now.
and even start to spread to Canterlot. And in the final log, we see that it only took 41
Thank you
days
for
for
the
the scientists to
information.
understand that there was no cure and no hope for anyone in this world. And I think this is why we see Rainbow and Rarity in their human forms running through the hallway of their school in one of the first chapters in this AU. It seems like Rainbow is trying to get herself and Rarity to safety, but then we see Rarity say that she's hungry. And then she takes a bite
yeah.
out of
She's
Rainbow's
gonna say that
hand.
she's
And based on
hot.
this panel here, it seems like Rarity wasn't even aware of why she did it. But once we see that she
hot.
also has a bite on her hand as
What?
well, it becomes
She's
clear
hot.
that she's been infected. And when I look back at the scientist's logs, it looks like she was bitten by the test subject that escaped. Being rightfully terrified by this, we see Rainbow goes to the mirror, even though I don't think she was aware of the fact that this mirror was going to teleport her to the My Little Pony universe. Unfortunately, Rarity is able to follow her as well, and as this next slide says,
Yeah, they're cooked.
and since we saw what one infected could do in this universe, I can only imagine how bad it's going to get with 2 infected characters coming into this universe. Next, we see that Rainbow and Rarity are in their pony forms because they've gone through the mirror and are now in the My Little Pony universe. And while Rainbow definitely seems confused, not understanding why she's a pony now, her stat sheets do actually confirm that she's infected with the virus and in the very early stages. And from what we see on the info page, when a pony is just bitten, they have between 1 hour and a full day before they move over to stage 1. The only good news here is that even before the virus really sets in, you can tell by the pony's
The hell,
eyes
why
that they
she
are infected.
bald?
And also, we can see dark veins pop up around the bite wound. Once the pony actually gets to stage 1, we see that their mouth starts to foam and their jaws become slack. And most important, we see that they start to become super
I
hungry.
know.
The infected will then move over to stage 2 after about 3 to 7
No.
days, and we see here that their eyes start to get milky,
Ooh, should I try to
almost
do
as if they're
no
going
reaction?
blind, and they also start to
Dang.
forget who they are. After 1 to 2
That
weeks,
was
the
gonna be
infected
harder
moves
'cause
over
I
to
can't
stage
laugh
3,
either.
and this is where we
Oh.
see that the area in which they were bitten starts to rot away.
just have to
Their
be like
eyes also
this the
start
whole
to sink
time.
into their skull,
yeah, you
and they
got it.
completely lose their minds and their consciousness. Stage 4 is the final stage, and we see that the infected starts to develop these blisters and boils all over
Okay,
their
I'm
body.
gonna need
And
to-
at this point, they are truly just mindless
too
zombies
funny,
looking to
Mike.
eat
Oh.
anything that they can get their mouth
It's
on.
too
We also
funny.
see this image here that says mutation, and while it's supposed to be a rare variant, I have a
It
feeling that
was
we're going to
too
see at least
fun.
one pony with this mutation before the AU is over. Now, while we understand the stages of the infection now, the ponies in this AU have no idea what's going on. So even when Rarity sees a doppelganger version of herself, she's completely caught off guard and more curious than anything. That is until Mirror Rarity attacks her. And while we can see in the next scene that Rarity
What,
is pretty
Rocco?
beat up,
Look at the
she
candy
wasn't
on me.
bitten because Coco Pommel actually jumped in front of her before Mirror Rarity can get the bite off. So while Rarity is technically safe, Coco was not so lucky. And since she was
diabetes?
bitten on her side here, there's no chance of them like chopping off the limb to stop the spread of this infection. After that, we see Fluttershy, and while she doesn't know what's happening yet either, she's already getting paranoid, showing that she definitely has some good intuition. After that, we see Twilight coming to the clinic, and she's surprised to see that Rarity was attacked by some random pony, still not fully understanding what's going on here. And the last character in this chapter is Pinky, who looks like she's been bitten as well. The weird thing, though, is that she's lying about how she got the wound, saying that she hurt her leg while baking. And just to keep count, that's 4 ponies infected, and barely any time has passed, meaning that this AU is going to get bad really fast.
Need a professional document translation? Like the Spanish Group, an internationally
YouTube
certified
Premium.
translation service with over
And barely any time has passed, meaning that this AU is going to
I
get
don't have
bad
either.
really fast.
I have less than $1.
In the next chapter, we see
I
Mirror
don't-
Rainbow
actually, no, I
looks
don't even have
terrible,
$1.
and it's moved on to the second stage of
I
the
don't have money
infection.
at all.
Although the original
How was
Rainbow is still fine,
that?
and funny enough, she doesn't seem to be shaken at all about this outbreak.
No.
Mirror Rarity, on the other hand, is at stage 4, and she is now considered to be a severe threat. And as we can see here, she has almost completely lost her mind and is consumed by her own
Let's try to make
hunger.
this an
Something
hour.
else that I found interesting is that her horn is broken, although we don't get to know if this is from the infection or if she was attacked. And we also see that one of her legs is rotting away, showing us that as more time passes, the infection may
I
eventually
know.
break down the pony so much that they won't be a threat,
Well,
or
rest
at
in
least that's
peace.
what I'm hoping.
Rest in peace,
After
my
that, we get another look at Coco, and she says, "I'm sorry, Pinky," making me think that she may be the one responsible for biting her. And in the next scene, we actually
Mom
get
didn't
this
see that poop.
flashback where we see Pinky looking afraid while Coco is walking into her bakery.
Yes,
And then we see her let out this scream, confirming that Coco was definitely the one to infect her.
Finger licking good special. That's what I'm talking about.
In the next chapter, we get to see Princess Celestia, and she is absolutely standing on business in this AU. We see that she's all covered in gore because she's taken out both Mirror Rarity and Rainbow, because those are the 2 ponies that she knew for sure were infected. And based on the stat sheet, it looks like she really brutalized them. And this honestly makes me a little bit afraid for what's going to happen to Pinky, because as of now, she is still trying to hide the fact that she's sick.
Yeah, Pinky's
And since
so
she has
gross.
seen what Celestia has done, she's
Yeah, I mean,
terrified that
it's
she'll
just
actually be taken
one
out as well.
donut and
And in the
cupcake.
next scene, things get even more dangerous when we see Celestia summons Twilight. She basically tells her that this infection is spreading, and even though she's already taken out 2 ponies, she believes that there are more out there, even though she doesn't know
don't know.
exactly who's infected. And she tasks Twilight with finding any other infected and
What about
taking
Twilight?
care of them, if you catch my drift. And even though Twilight doesn't seem to be happy about it, she doesn't refuse to order. And in short time, she kind of starts to go crazy, accusing every pony of being infected, basically starting like a bunch of witch hunts. Next, we get to see Pinky again, and she is now in stage 2, and ponies are well aware that she's infected and are running away from her. Well, all except for AJ, who ended up getting bitten on her leg by Pinky. And since she's been out in the orchard, I don't even think she really fully understood what was happening in town. And I also feel like Pinky is going to infect a lot more people because she has a certain type of mutation that allows her to mimic voices. So she keeps calling out to other ponies, asking for help and luring the victims to her. And we see evidence of this with Fluttershy, who was actually bitten by Pinky,
not
probably
the
falling for
bunny.
her little voice mimicking trick. And at this point, Fluttershy is now hiding out as well because she knows that Twilight and
like her too, I
Celestia are
guess.
going on a bit
I
of a
like her
killing
when she
spree,
lets
just to be
animals.
honest, so she doesn't want to actually be in their path. But since the bite didn't break the skin, it also is possible
bite
that she
didn't
may
break the
not be
skin.
infected at all. Although I don't think
Telling
Twilight's
you.
really going to
So she's
care.
not
The
infected.
next panel kind of scared me because I thought
Oh,
Dash
that's
was
one of my
infected,
favorites.
but it turns out that she just sprained her leg. But since she can
Rainbow
fly, this
Dash.
isn't
What's
so
your
much of a big
favorite?
deal for her,
I
and she
told you I
should still
don't
be able to find
know.
Scoot, who's the person
No,
that she's
you
looking for
do.
here.
I
And I'm
think I
hoping
did
that Scoot is
last time.
okay because in almost every AU, she always gets
I
a
like
bad
that,
hand. After that, we get another look at
like
AJ,
that.
and she is the first
Huh?
You know what?
Ow! What the hell happened?
And then she got the special mutation.
pony that we see with this particular mutation. And while we don't have a lot of information about it, I feel like since this mutation appears so early in AU, it's definitely going to be an issue later. And if that wasn't bad enough,
She's
Twilight
mutated?
has gone
Yeah.
completely insane
she
now,
diamond?
and it's now taken out
What?
any pony that she even suspects of being infected. And as we can see on the stat sheet here, she did take out Coco,
Is
who
she-
was sick, but
is
she
she
also took
gold,
this pony out
diamond,
who was
rainbow,
completely healthy.
lava,
And while I can't
galaxy?
really tell, I'm
Yay!
hoping that this isn't derpy.
Goodbye.
Now, while Twilight is out there hunting, Celestia isn't oblivious, and she kind of understands that Twilight has gone off the deep end. And while she wants to keep Twilight in check, she really can't because she still has the responsibility of raising the sun every day, and she's also spending so much energy fighting these infected. So she's basically burned herself out so much that she can't even really go and keep Twilight in check now. She also isn't eating properly, which is why she looks so skinny here. After that, we cut back over to Fluttershy, and she looks completely different, with one eye being severely damaged and burns all over her legs. And apparently this happened to her while she was out hiding, and Spike and Twilight actually found her in this bunker.
Look! I'm so sorry guys for pausing the video so much.
And Twilight ordered Spike to burn her. And since Spike is just as crazy as Twilight, he did it with no hesitation. And while Fluttershy obviously survived the attack, she no longer has that like happy-go-lucky look about her. I also noticed that even though she was bitten a while back, she still hasn't turned, meaning that she may actually have some kind of immunity in this AU. Because even though it says right here that the bite didn't really break the skin, we can clearly see the teeth marks here. So I'm gonna bet that Shy is immune. But regardless of why she is still healthy doesn't really matter. I just think that is good news because imagine what Discord would do if he saw her even like this, but even more so if she was infected as well. He would go on an absolute rampage. Next we get to see Rarity again, and she has had her whole lower jaw just...
Emily?
What?
It ripped off her whole jaw.
Ooh.
Rarity's jaw. And they her whole lower jaw.
The one that's all like damn perfect?
Yes.
Oh, that one I don't care.
Her whole lower damn jaw was literally.
That was probably like my least favorite, not gonna lie.
What did she do?
Nothing. She's just boring.
Oh, she's boring. Matthew's boring.
No. But she's just boring. She's all boring.
So are you. But Emily, look.
Okay. I'm gonna put it down the RV by doing some popcorn.
God, Emily. Okay.
Ripped
That's
off
her whole jaw
and a
gone.
piece of her leg as well.
Good.
And we can assume
Jaw's
that this
gone
was
with
Twilight since it
bloody.
says that she was
She got
mauled.
mauled.
I feel extra bad for Rarity here
Look,
because we all
her
know
mouth-
how she was so like into
The
her
lower
own
part of her
beauty.
mouth is
So I
gone.
can only imagine how she feels with half of her face
she
gone.
can't eat,
Luckily she
talk, or
was
nothing.
treated for her injuries, although it looks like she'll
probably
never
gonna
be
kill
able to
herself.
speak again. After that, we
No,
get to
she
see
didn't.
Rainbow Dash again, and it looks like she was finally bitten. But instead of giving up hope, she
Finally.
grabs a knife and decides to go down fighting. Something interesting to note, however, is that she is immune, although she isn't aware of it
it's
at this
cooked.
point. So hopefully she doesn't
She's
get herself
immune.
taken out before she can learn of her immunity. We also get a quick update for Pinky, and she is at the final stage of the infection.
Yeah, she's
We
cooked.
also see that
Yeah,
she
she's
is still
cooked,
yelling
bro.
out for help, likely luring more
I
ponies
don't
over to her
know.
and infecting them. The update for Twilight is just saying that she is still completely crazy, and it started saying that she is the cure and all the ponies are infected. And she is using her magic to basically cut down any pony that she sees. Princess Celestia still wants to stop Twilight, but in her exhausted state, she doesn't have the power to do so.
Yeah, she
And
could,
seeing that
bro.
her sister's in trouble, Luna finally makes her way onto the
Bro,
scene,
Twilight
and she
could,
tells her
bro.
sister
Isn't
to take a
Luna
rest while
evil?
she protects the kingdom for
No.
a while. And luckily, Luna also seems to be immune, although she's unaware. The final update we get in this chapter is about Dash, and we see that she survived her last stand and is now realized that she's immune. And I'll just say this, with 2, possibly 3 immune ponies in this AU, I feel like they may have a good chance of actually finding a vaccine, especially if they
about
can find
that.
Zecora soon. Now, the next chapter starts off with a flashback of when Twilight actually found Lyra and Bonbon hiding in the woods. Lyra is trying to tell her that Bon isn't like the other infected and that she actually has maintained her sanity. But of
I
course,
thought I
Twilight
should
isn't
put
hearing
that
any
knife
of that, and she
up.
ends up
You
attacking
catch
Lyra,
Grandma.
taking out one of her eyes and even breaking her horn. But it seems like even with those injuries,
can
Bonbon and
charge it.
Lyra
I
were still
have a
able to get
charger,
away from
Michael.
Twilight. And in this
So
scene
I can
here, we
charge
can
it?
see that Bonbon
my
is calling out for
iPad.
Lyra,
Oh my-
showcasing that maybe she really does still have her sanity. I just hope that she doesn't have the same mutation that Pinky has and is actually like tricking Lyra. We also get this panel here where Bonbon says,
She's one of my
Lyra,
favorite,
don't
but,
leave me.
mean,
Please,
that's
I'm still
bad.
here. These two always have the most heartbreaking storylines in these AUs, and I'm hoping
the
that this time they
charges.
actually have a happy
I
ending.
need
After that, we get to see Rarity again, and she
Yo,
seems to be
Emily,
fully healed with
you're
a
eating the
metal
fun
leg
dog
and a
again.
face
Go
mask
back.
now. She's also found a shelter to hide in with a few other ponies, and this includes Fluttershy, who it says is immune for now, and she looks a lot happier. We also see that Celestia has finally
5%,
allowed
by the
herself
way.
to
Yeah, you're
sleep,
correct,
and
Pepper.
hopefully this
I'm
means that she'll be
gonna
back
go
at full
call
power
Joe
soon.
right now.
Unfortunately,
I'm
Luna has taken on the
still
duties
right
of
here
raising the
in the-
sun and also taking out infected, and she's taken a ton of wounds. And even though she's immune, she won't last much longer if she keeps getting beat up like this. And also, since Luna was not meant to raise the sun, I think that she's using way more magic than she's used to, which is also taking a toll on her. So hopefully Celestia will be back in the fight soon before things get really bad for her sister. The final ponies that we see in this chapter are Shining Armor and his family. It seems like Princess Cadence was infected, but Shining Armor was able to get away with only a few small cuts, and more importantly, he was able to keep Flurry Heart safe as well.
What?
And hopefully it stays that way, because we all know that Flurry is one of the characters that usually gets taken out early in these AUs. The next chapter starts with us seeing Fluttershy speaking with Rainbow, who looks to have just arrived at the shelter. And considering that at least a few days have passed, I think it's safe to assume that she truly is immune and it wasn't just a delayed reaction. And I feel like the same can be said for Shy as well. Now, Twilight, on the other hand, ended up getting infected.
Emily?
What?
Emily?
Huh?
You know Twilight Sparkle, right? How she went insane?
Yes.
Emily, look at her.
Okay, let me do this. I'm trying to drop this. Let me look.
So you
Oh
know-
my god.
Yeah, she got infected, Emily.
While out hunting ponies, and she's definitely not immune. And to make matters worse, since she was already crazy before getting infected, now she is just truly deranged. Luckily, Rarity was able to capture her and lock her up in the shelter to run some tests. And after seeing this flashback here, it makes sense why Rarity was the one to go after Twilight. As we can see, Twilight is
I can't
confirmed to
see
be
you.
the person that took off Rarity's jaw
can't
while on her mindless rampage. We also see that encounter left Rarity with a bit of PTSD, which honestly, I can't blame her for. We also get a small update for AJ and
What the? Wait, what's that?
Yo, she cooked, dude.
He, I think.
No,
We know it's a she.
that's correct. Yeah, she cooked.
I always
Pinky,
thought that
we
was
see
a
that
he.
AJ's mutation is
too.
continuing to spread, and Pinky has disappeared. Now, while
Why
some
do we
ponies think that she may
know,
no longer be
Rainbow Dash
alive,
is also
others believe that
Will?
she could just be wandering around in the woods
Everyone
collecting more
in
victims.
My Little Pony, damn girl.
After that, we get to see a
Yeah,
bunch of the ponies
actually.
together in the shelter here
You're right.
when
Actually,
helping
there's
Heart
not one
as
boy.
Rainbow to come with her to the medical
Why?
department. And from the jump, the nurse is
Wait,
kind of
what
being
about the
weird.
knight?
But eventually, she tells Twilight that since
Who
she's
the hell
immune,
is
she
Knight?
may
I
be the
don't
answer to
remember
creating
the
a
person
cure.
that
And wanting to help her
literally,
friends, Dash ends up
took
laying
her
down
out.
on this
For this.
to get away
You
with
know? Shining that armor.
I think that's the only boy in the whole show.
only a few small cuts, and more
Now I
importantly,
need
he was
to
able to keep
make
Flurry
it
Heart safe
back.
as well. And hopefully it stays that way, because we all know that Flurry is one of the characters that usually gets taken out early in these AUs. The next chapter starts with us seeing Fluttershy speaking with Rainbow, who looks to have just arrived at the shelter. And considering that at least a few days have passed, I think it's safe to assume that she truly is immune, and it wasn't just a delayed reaction. And I feel like the same can be said for Shy as well. Now, Twilight, on the other hand, ended up getting infected while out hunting ponies, and she's definitely not immune. And to make matters worse, since she was already crazy before getting infected, now she is just truly deranged. Luckily, Rarity was able to capture her and lock her up in the shelter to run some tests. And after seeing this flashback here, it makes sense why Rarity was the one to go after Twilight. As we can see, Twilight is confirmed to be the person that took off Rarity's jaw while on her mindless rampage. We also see that encounter left Rarity with a bit of PTSD, which honestly, I can't blame her for. We also get a small update for AJ and Pinky. We see that AJ's mutation is continuing to spread, and Pinky has disappeared. Now, while some ponies think that she may no longer be alive, others believe that she could just be wandering around in the woods collecting more victims.
Bentley, turn off your
After
iPad
that, we
so
get
it
to see a
doesn't
bunch
die
of the ponies
quick.
together in the shelter here when
I
helping
can't
Heart
see.
as Rainbow to come with her to the medical
Bruh.
department. And from the jump,
God,
the nurse
can
is
hear
kind of
but
being
not
weird.
see.
But eventually, she
Oh.
tells Twilight
Yeah, I
that
might
since
be a
she's
bit
immune,
spooky.
she may be the answer to creating a cure.
What?
And wanting to help her
Yeah, I might be a
friends,
bit
Dash
stupid.
ends up laying down
Why
on
would
this
I think
operating
that?
table. But she gets worried when the nurse says that she's going to give her some anesthesia, which worries me as well, because why does she need to be asleep just to get a sample taken? But eventually Dash gives in, and we see this image of the mask going over her face. But the thing that worries me is the look of the nurse here as she's going to sleep. And my fears were warranted when we see that the nurse literally took Rainbow's whole
Right.
leg,
They took Rainbow Dash.
which is way more than a sample.
Why?
And Rainbow
Can't
looks
see your face, by
rightfully
the
ticked
way.
off here.
Man,
This some old bullshit.
In the next stat sheet, we see that Rarity is okay with Dashie being mutilated because she's desperate to find a cure, simply saying that it's for the greater good. And while I kind of agree with her, I think they may be going a bit too far. And Shy feels the same way, now thinking that if they find out that she may be immune, they'll experiment and take pieces of her as well.
There, you can see
We also see that they're using Twilight to test out some of these potential cures. And from the looks of it, Nurse Sweetheart believes that the sample that they took from Twilight may actually work. Although, by the look of Twilight here, even if they cure her, she's still going to be crazy. It may simply be like too far gone. But Rarity doesn't really care about that. She just wants to find a cure as quickly as possible. And this next scene kind of shows us why, as she enters this room and calls for Sweetie Belle. We then cut over to Sweetie and see that she is definitely deep in the infection now. But Rarity tells her little sister, it's going to be okay, just a little bit longer, and then we'll have a cure. Now, while I understand that Rarity wants to save her sister, I feel like that desire is making her reckless and putting other ponies at risk. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think that Rarity is in the right here, or do you think that she's been a little too reckless?
No.
In the next chapter, we also get an update about Flurry Heart, and while she is safe and cared for, she is very upset about not having her mother around. And seeing that his daughter is suffering, Shining Armor decides to gear up and head out to go get his wife. And his thought process was basically, now that they have a cure, he may be able to reunite his family. Although, since Princess Cadance is at the final stage, I'm not sure how well that's actually going to work out. After that, we cut back over to Fluttershy, and we see that she went out on a supply run and ended up getting bit. And while she still thinks that she's immune, she's starting to have some doubts. And not wanting to potentially hurt her friends, she decided to pack her stuff and leave before she can turn. Now, while this is happening, we see Nurse Sweetheart goes to meet with Rarity, and she tells her that the vaccine actually worked on Twilight. Although, when we see her, she looks crazy as ever, and there is still a chance that she carries the virus. But I will admit that this is definitely a good first step, but even with this, they still shouldn't let Twilight out because I think that she's going to go right back to just taking out ponies. Now, as Fluttershy is leaving, we see that Dash starts to look for her, and before she can get too far out, Dash stops her and tries to convince her to stay because of the cure. But Shy is determined not to hurt any of her friends, and she turns to leave. But before she can even take a step, she sees Discord, Zecora, Shining Armor, Apple Bloom, Lyra, and Bonbon. And honestly, with both Discord and Zecora coming onto the scene, I'm starting to feel kind of hopeful for this AU. In the next chapter, we see Discord is in the shelter trying to catch up with Fluttershy, but the other ponies are not having that, and they start to question him, asking where he's been and why he hasn't used his powers to stop this infection. And as Rainbow points out here, Discord literally has the ability to bend reality, so he should have been able to get rid of this virus with ease. But unlike other AUs, this one actually gives a good reason for Discord's seemingly being nerfed. And here we actually see him go into detail about how back in the day he used to cause a lot of chaos. And seeing this, Celestia feared that he would do the same to the human world, so she put up a protective spell on this mirror, which is the same mirror that allowed Rarity and Dashie to come to this universe in the first place. Basically, the spell made sure that Discord's magic couldn't actually affect anyone or anything in the human world, and also that he couldn't cross over. And this spell is so powerful that even though many years have passed, Discord still can't interact with the human world. And since the virus technically was made in the human world, Discord's magic has no positive effect on it. And I made sure to say positive.
Emily? Emily?
What?
Discord, from My Little Pony? He mutated the virus.
I swear to God, Michael.
Effect because he actually tried to stop the virus when he found out AJ was infected, but all he managed to do was mutate it, making it even worse. And just to give a quick update on that, Pinky actually
Look.
Huh? Wait, why am I laughing?
That's where Pinky went, Emily.
Wait, what? Okay, so yeah, we knew she was cooked.
So, Emily, they're combined now.
You mean they're combined?
Look!
Oh. I mean, we knew Pinky
we
was
found
dead,
AJ
but I
out in
didn't
the
know
woods, and now the
Applejack
two of them
would die,
are fused
to be
together,
honest.
making them twice as dangerous. Now, the next chapter starts off seeing a bunch of injected ponies who have been taken out. After seeing Luna get hurt, Celestia took on a Daybreaker form and basically went out and slaughtered every infected that she could find, but unlike Twilight, she didn't go insane completely and like take out healthy ponies. Sadly, Luna is still in a coma, and while it says that she is no longer immune, she doesn't seem to be affected by the bites yet. After that scene, we cut over to Rarity, who is in the medical center of the shelter, and she is asking about her sister. The nurses were able to give Sweetie the vaccine, and while she is technically cured, she has become mute and looks kinda crazy. We also get an update for Fluttershy, and it looks like she is half infected now. In this AU, it seems like the immunity of ponies may correspond with their emotions and their will to fight, and I think this is why Dash was immune the whole time, even when she was
Sweetie Belle's not infected no more, but she's mute.
Wait, what?
Sweetie Belle's not infected no more, but she's mute.
bitten. She was determined to take out
I think like Rarity's basically daughter.
as many infected as she could, and I think this is what kind of kept her strong. While Shy was immune for a while until she started to actually fear turning and attacking her friends, which I think allowed the infection to take root. But as of right now, that's just my theory. After that, we cut over to the nurses again, and we see that they are almost out of the cure that they extracted from Rainbow, meaning that they're going to have to take another chunk of her. But Redheart understands that this is wrong, and she refuses to be a part of it. Nurse Sweetheart doesn't care about any of that though, and she is determined to get more of that cure and is going to move forward without her. Now, as we see Redheart storming out of the room, she runs into Twilight in the hallway, and somehow she managed to escape and to the
Emily?
What?
Also, look. Also, sorry guys, I have to pause every time. Something cool, something comes on because fat ass Emily is not at her damn iPad. So Emily, get your big ass over here.
It will die slow if I do this.
surprise of nobody, she attacks Flurry Heart. But before her attack can land, Red Heart intercepts and ends up getting pretty banged up by Twilight. But thankfully, Flurry Heart was able to get away with just a small cut on her cheek. In the stat sheet here, we see that the ponies actually managed to catch Twilight and put her back in quarantine, even putting a straitjacket on her to make sure that she couldn't escape again. After that, we get to learn more about what happened with Sweetie Belle, and apparently, she was the one to attack Scootaloo. And now that she's cured of the virus, she can remember every bad thing that she did while infected, and is feeling a ton of guilt about it. And we see here that she's just been in her room saying, "I didn't mean to," over and over again. We also get to see Apple Bloom, and while she is safe and healthy in a shelter now, she's worried about her sister. It seems that she doesn't know that she's infected already. We also get to see Zeccora's stat sheet, and even though she just arrived, she's already not trusting the nurses, understanding that something shady is going on here. And even though the nurses are curing people, as we can see here with Cadence, she is mentally unwell and hasn't stopped screaming since getting cured. It makes sense that Zecora doesn't trust what's going on here. We also get to see Shiny Armor, and he is devastated seeing the state of his wife. He thought that she would be cured and doesn't understand why she seems to be suffering even more now. The next chapter starts off with Rarity recording herself talking about the cure that they found by using Rainbow's nerves, and also how everyone that they have cured seems to go insane. And she makes an interesting point when she says, "It's like Virus Z takes a part of them with it when they're cured. It takes a piece of them that they can't ever get back." And even with this realization, she still says that they're going to need to get more of that cure from Rainbow, and that they're going to have to take her out completely at this point. And I think this really showcases how Rarity might be insane as well. She just doesn't show it in the same way that like Twilight does. And we get to see this even more in her stat sheets where she says, "Friends? No. Rainbow Dash and I barely knew each other." And I think she's only saying this because she's trying to convince herself and also like justify all the wrong that she's done and what she's planning to do to Dashie. Which, as you can see here, is that they basically chopped her up. Now, in this chapter, we also saw that Apple Bloom was going to go on a supply run with Zecora, and while they were out, Bloom ends up running into AJ, and of course, that means she also ran into Pinky. And while we don't get to actually see what happens to her here because it just kind of fades to black, I want to believe that she survives, but we'll have to wait to the future chapters to see how this actually plays out. The next thing that we see in this chapter is Rainbow's hair, and she's asking, "Where am I? Everything hurts." And this basically means that even though they used most of her to make the cure, she still managed to survive somehow. And luckily, before she can leak out, Celestia was able to find her, and she says, "Stay with me, Rainbow Dash." And we can assume that she uses her magic to keep her alive. Now, the next part of the story takes place 3 years later, but we actually start out with a flashback showcasing how Rarity and their sweetheart plan to get rid of Rarity's body in the woods. Now, initially, Rarity thought that Rainbow was done for her, but Sweetheart does let her know that when she left her out in the woods, Dashie technically was still alive. For a moment, I thought that Rarity may have felt bad for making Dash suffer, but she just says here that the infected will finish Dash off, showcasing that she really is a scumbag in this AU. After that flashback, we go back to the present time period and we see that someone is calling out for Dash, and then we see this metal leg enter the frame. After that, we get the new stat sheet for Dash, and she has been given all new robotic limbs and is considered to be Daybreak's favorite pony in this army that she created. The army, of course, was created to defeat the infected. Good news is that since she has the ability to dreamwalk, she is still able to communicate with her sister and the other ponies when they sleep. Now in this next chapter, we see Dash looking in the mirror, wishing that she still had her wings. But before she can get too deep into that thought, Rose shows up and tells her that some new ponies have arrived. And surprisingly, it's Rarity and the whole shelter crew. And of course, when Dash sees Rarity, she immediately kicks her in the eye, which honestly is well deserved. We get to see that Shining Armor is struggling, which makes sense considering how hard he fought to actually save his family in this AU. I feel really bad for him, and this picture at the end of the chapter just kind of rubs salt in the wound. In the next chapter of this series, we get to see some of the loose ends get tied up, starting with what happened to Apple Bloom. I assumed that she was taken out by Pinkie and her sister, but in actuality, she was saved by Zecora, who ended up getting bitten on the leg, defending her. I am happy to see that Zecora is still alive though. It seems like they were able to take her leg before the infection spread too far. After that, we get to see that Dashie is out on a run, taking out infected when she sees a trail of gore. She follows it thinking that she's going to find another random infected pony, but she actually finds Twilight, and she's really banged up here. This scene was kind of sad for me because in the end, Twilight was able to get her sanity back, understanding the hurt that she caused and even apologizing. But her injuries are so bad at this point that there's no saving her. Her final words to Dash are, "Promise me you'll find a way to end this horrible sickness. Bring friendship back to Equestria." And then she fades away, leaving Dash to cry over her body. But in the next scene of the series, we see that Dashie keeps her promise to Twilight and goes to find every infected still wandering around Equestria and putting them all out of their misery and then burning them so that they couldn't spread this virus further. Well, burning all except 3, those being Pinkie Pie, AJ, and Twilight. The final scene takes place 10 years after this virus was defeated, and we see that Rarity has become a nurse and has taken a vow to never hurt another pony ever again. Fluttershy is still considered to be half infected, but the virus is not contagious anymore, so everyone is pretty much safe around her. Discord, of course, is fine and is basically spending his time with Fluttershy because the two of them are dating now. After that, we see Rainbow Dash, and since she lost her cutie mark, she tells people to just call her Dash now. We also see that since she did so much work during this outbreak, Celestia used her magic to regrow her wings and also made her an apprentice. After that, we get to learn about what happened to Spike, and he actually disappeared because he was taken out by Twilight early on in the outbreak. She basically used her magic to explode his dome.
Okay, Twilight.
Next, we see that Celestia managed to go back to her normal form, kinda. Her appearance is permanently changed, which is why she's still glowing orange, but her sanity is much better now. And even though she's still sad about what happened to Luna, she spends a lot more time sleeping, and this basically allows her to spend more time with her sister. Next, we see Shining Armor, and Celestia ended up making him the head of her royal guard. And Flurry Heart was actually able to be trained by Celestia and will soon be known as the Princess of Love. Bonbon and Lyra both survived, and Bonbon was cured of the infection. And after the virus was completely taken out, the two of them ended up getting married, and now they've just been living a happy life together. And honestly, I'm happy to see that these two finally have a good ending. Rose ended up staying in Celestia's army, while Lily actually became a gardener. We don't get much information about Zecora, but we can assume that she returned to her home and continues her work as like a natural healer. Apple Bloom ended up taking over the family farm, since I believe she is the last surviving member of the family. And the last pony that we get to see is Sweetie Belle, who never actually recovered from getting infected and taking out Scoot. She even cut out her own cutie mark because she was so depressed. And I think this gives her the saddest ending out of all our survivors. All in all, I thought this AU was really well done, and I especially like that it had like a solid ending. And even more than that, I like that the creator gave us a kind of realistic ending, because while the ponies did technically win here, they had to go through a lot to get to this place, and none of them really did it without taking any damage. I also want to point out that I really love the fact that Celestia got right to action when she saw that her people were in danger. Usually in AUs, they have Celestia like fly away or go hide somewhere and allow the ponies to just suffer. In this AU, she really tried her best to stop this infection from spreading, but it just ended up getting away from her. But overall, I think she did the best that she could. Let me know what you guys thought about this one down in the comments. Subscribe today to become a member of the Horse Force, and we will see you next time with another video.
Okay, guys, it's time for another video, Emily. Emily?
You like
My little phone glitch. Nah.
do I put it back or make another one?
Put what back?
It didn't cook right.
But I don't know if you're allowed to put popcorn back in the microwave after you make it.
Hang on. Emily, look at your screen.
Huh?
Are you looking? Emily, are you looking? I take that as a yes.
Don't know me.
Why is she twerking?
Emily, she has no bones.
But I know you.
What is that? Michael, what is that?
Emily, isn't that Pinkie Pie?
I think it is.
And like all of us see.
No, that's Applejack.
By the way, Applejack is like probably my favorite.
Look what happened to Applejack.
Oh God, Bro's cooked. Well, actually, I think he is cooked in the picture.
Yeah, large bones can't stand correctly.
Well, you know.
Yeah, music makes it more scary.
Emily?
What?
Know me. But I know you. But I
Hey!
Come on.
What was that?
Oh no.
Try to do the this one. It has bro.
What?
Most of these are not ponies.
¿Necesitas
Okay, let's watch
dinero?
this one.
¿A quién deberías acudir?
Next, Dean.
Puedes solicitar hasta
So I've done a good amount of AUs recently, and I've been seeing comments saying I've basically become an
Oh, that's what I
analog
was
horror
talking
YouTuber
about.
out of nowhere. But who cares?
What?
Look at the first one.
So I've done a good amount of AUs recently, and I've been seeing comments saying I've basically become an analog horror YouTuber out of.
That's what gives me
Okay.
nightmares, Emily.
Okay, now Michael.
That's what I was talking about, Emily.
Now Michael, I wouldn't get scared of that, but with that music, oh my God.
That's what gives me nightmares, Emily.
That's creepy.
Nowhere, but who cares? Because you guys are loving the
I
series.
don't
So the
wanna
most
watch
liked
that.
comment on this video is the AU I'll do next.
This one isn't about
Now,
the.
after learning
Emily,
about
that's
My
the one I was
Little
talking about
Pony
that you
Outbreak
said you wouldn't get
AU,
scared of.
whoever showed me,
What?
I don't want to comb another pony. Now, before we get started,
Yeah,
I
no,
have
that's
to
the-
recap
that's
the
the one you said
cartoon
you
for
wouldn't get
those who
scared
never
of.
watched. Now, basically, My Little
Wait, but
Pony
does it
is
have
about
that
a
music?
magical world called Equestria, where
scary
ponies with
music.
special powers live, and the show focuses on
That
friendship,
isn't
magic,
scary.
and
Is- or
saving
is
their
it not
world
scary?
from different threats. But in
No,
this
I don't know
AU,
what the
this
music is,
deadly
Emily.
threat
That in
is
general is
not
so scary.
physical, and some of the
Imagine the
ponies are
ponies, Emily.
infected by something called the Mimic Plague. So it starts off by giving us a status on characters, with the first one being on Twilight Sparkle, who's the main character.
But
Luckily, her
Emily,
status
you
says
see
she's
what I
not
mean by you would
infected.
get scared.
She's at good health at a 97%, her sanity's at a 75%, pretty good, but her
and then the only
stress
thing to
is
do
at a
with music on it.
90%, which of course is concerning.
Oh,
Now we
music,
see
I would
why
probably
because of the
laugh,
note
not
that's
gonna lie.
left that says, after receiving no news from Celestia, Twilight takes protecting Ponyville into her own
With the
hands.
music.
If you didn't know, Celestia is
I
like
wanna
Twilight's
kill that
mentor
music.
and
But,
mother figure. She
with
studied
the
under her
music.
since she was a filly, which is
Yeah,
a
but
young
it might
female
have that
horse,
music
or in her
or
case,
fairy
unicorn. But Celestia is the wise, powerful ruler of the ponies who usually count
you
on
put
her
that
for
one, though?
advice or orders. So imagine
I
out of
want to, but I don't
nowhere
know the
when
name of
suddenly
it.
Celestia goes
Wait,
silent
he
during a
reacted to it.
crisis. It would deeply unsettle Twilight. It's like your lifelong teacher, guide, or protector just
yo,
disappeared
Emily.
without a word, which is why her stress would be at 90%.
You
And this
listen?
also hints that something
listen
must have
most
went
of the
terribly
infection
wrong. Fluttershy is not doing too good. She's
I
not
got
been
done having
infected, but
nightmares
as you
because
can
of the
see,
chatting.
she's gotten a lot of injuries on her body. With
I
it
think
saying
they
that
will.
she's gotten scratches from animals, sprained wing from self-defense. She's even been locked in her cottage since the beginning of the outbreak. So they're not letting her leave her home, and I'm guessing it's because of the
Question.
aggressiveness the infected probably have.
Would
Rainbow
it be-
Dash is in the green as well. She's basically the ambulance or the police of Ponyville going around in search of ponies in need. And she's most likely accompanied by Pinkie Pie, who's using her pinky senses to help alert her.
Never mind, you're
What is up, my people?
watching
Welcome
this
back
like-
to the channel, and today we was recommended to cover the Divine Swamp Fever. Before we get started, of course, do not forget to join my Discord server to have fun in there. It's the #1 Sonic Discord server, #1 Hangout server. In the magical little world of My Little Pony, where there's princesses and kings, this alternate universe takes a spin on episode 20 of season 7 called A Health of Information. Basically, what happened in one of these episodes is a pony accidentally fell into a swamp and ended up catching a disease, a very rare one. And of course, they had to find a cure for it. But in this alternate universe, the ponies are being mutated against their will into something more, something different, something they don't want to be. So the princesses have to improvise to protect their people. They have to put up walls to keep the infected out and their people sane, while the others on the other side go insane. Because these unfortunate ponies are turning into something that gives their life a new purpose, as they scream in agony and confusion, not knowing what's to come next.
I don't want to watch this, Emily. I'm actually begging at this point.
Starting with Princess Cadence at home protecting the Empire. Found infected in the middle of the woods. She's vomiting bile all over the ground and screaming in agony. And why is she doing this? Well, actually, I think it's probably laughing. If you didn't know, Pinkie Pie eases her own fear by laughing. She admitted to the other ponies that she, at a young age, learned that laughing will make all her fears go away. So that uncontrollable sound she's making might be a laugh, hoping that it will all go away and stop. Now, of course, before we move on, you have to know about the virus and what it does. And in short, there are
I kinda
6
wanna do a
stages.
step
In the first stage, the
above.
symptoms are hard to notice by themselves, but they do begin to lose a bit of their appetite and their
Do you
eyes
try
become
not crappy
red.
pants
By stage 2,
at
it's
night?
hard for them to stop, but they're still able to speak, and they start
all along?
leaking feces from their
Oh,
body.
Emily.
By stage 3, their respiratory and digestive systems start to erode. Their skin becomes more fragile, and this disgusting bile replaces their blood and cells.
when you
And
come,
the
we're gonna
disease
have to do
forces
that,
them to
Michael.
starve at this
Oh,
point.
Emily,
By
I'm
stage
gonna get
4, their
nightmares.
body is completely hollowed, of course, only filled with liquid decomposition. By stage 5, as their skin is completely rotting, it starts to stick more to that disgusting bile. And stage 6 is a transformation no pony could reverse. Now, if you think this virus is still a joke, there is a being called Discord who is basically perceived as a god. And here's late night footage of his whereabouts.
Huh?
I didn't know I wasn't screen sharing.
Late night footage of his whereabouts.
No.
Oh. What? What happened? Because we have to see each other's reaction. Like, if whoever, does that, like, or not looking, like, I know that it's running by, I can't try to look.
I literally put my foot on my phone, Emily.
What? Oh.
Emily, I put my foot on my phone, how scared I was. Who thinks that?
I laughed. Was it jump scares? Now that's funny.
Yeah. I don't know if that's meant to be scary.
The repeated beeping, or what is known as Morse code that you heard, was actually saying, I cannot die. I cannot die. Which, scary enough, is true about Discord. Now here's the status footage on most of the ponies you're probably wondering about.
Bro, think a button that makes it hang up.
Huh?
Why do you keep saying I hang up, Emily?
Oh. Wow.
Why did you hang up, huh? There's a chance I'm gonna hit that music. You're probably gonna be downstairs. But just saying, there's probably a chance I'm actually clicking a button. Where's that little bar? Why is there a bar that's filling up? Big Mac?
Video, by the way? Look, I'm getting bored. Is this the scary ass one, Michael?
Yeah. That's shining on.
It's happened before, Michael. It was a bit more extreme.
So a lot is going on in the world of ponies right now, but the reason why we're getting all of this secret footage is because of Luna. She's tapping into everyone's memories and dreams. But as you can see, something is wrong with her. Something is different. It turns out Princess Luna, who has the ability of dreamwalking, unintentionally was going into people's dreams infected and infecting them through their dreams. And if I were Princess Luna, I don't know how I would feel after finding out this information. The next footage is the memory banks of Macintosh being infiltrated. And during his footage, you also see that he's infected, but you hear the Morse code saying, "Be not afraid." And the only reason why we have this footage is because Twilight ended up making a dream machine. So let's take a peek at what she's looking at from Fluttershy.
A quiet night without sound. I'd better take a look around.
Lightly tread, don't make a peep. For here sick.
Better not to April Fool's about to burn.
Hi Fluttershy, are you alright? It's been awfully quiet. Night.
Michael.
Alright then, I'll leave you be. But if you want anything, please call for me.
Max volume while hearing this.
Oh, sweet mother of Celestia. I'm
I
sorry,
got
Zahara, I didn't
Max
see you
volume
there.
on this
That's
while
quite
watching this.
alright, Nurse Rarity. It's hard to spook a soul like me. I've just been on edge recently. I'm sure you can relate. I feel like my head's backwards sometimes. In times like these, so full of dread, it serves you well to keep your head. You might want to tell that to Twilight, darling. Her head has been loose as an old frog. She's been working on her dream machine thing day and night, working herself up. I haven't even seen her any dreams come through. She's covered all the footage with warnings. It just says, don't look. She'd probably let you peek. You're her right hoof mirror after all. Oh goodness, I've been standing here for nearly a minute. I've got to keep my rounds. It's been lovely chatting, darling.
That, at first, seems to be about someone who broke inside their house. It comes off as one of those.
Bonbon is mourning her friends that she's lost, Macintosh, Laria, and it seems like she's going to be turning soon as well.
That something else is happening. Hoopla 22, the dog owner in question.
Now, over in Eastern Equestria, a public service announcement is released, giving them info about the virus and how to avoid it and what to do currently at the moment right now. Now, before you watch this, I want you to put yourself in their shoes as a pony. If you got this announcement and your kids or brothers or sisters are all watching this at the same time.
That Hoopla's dog hasn't been the same.
Neil swamp fever is a recently discovered disease now tearing through Eastern Equestria.
The disease is characterized as rapid deterioration in cognition as well of the body.
The exact symptoms as they appear are listed in full in the previous published informational tape.
This tape is focused on preventative measures that you and your family can take to prevent the
Any ponies seem
to think that the contagious only pass pony to pony or only from direct contact
with individuals displaying symptoms.
This could not be further from the truth.
The vast majority of ponies found to have been infected with the disease never even seen another infected.
The main cause of this spread is through food.
And if I see someone near my dog, you know what I'm doing?
Water, sugar, and produce
to
to ensure that the food you're eating is safe.
Check for the showing signs of being sore.
Stores, Aldi's, La Ledima.
Stores are often visible on contaminated food. They're black or dark gray in color. Check if anything's visually unusual and throw it out. Fries not only breed bacteria, but also
evidence of contaminated food.
slow it down. It is better to starve than succumb. For you, for your loved ones, and for Equestria, play a part. Your faithful princess, Twilight Sparkle.
Can you pick out what store? Let's go. Yum.
This was probably a game made for the children to better understand the infection and how to pull it out.
I don't wanna.
Thank you.
Why is he doing it with every that's just mental of him. Is he looking under the bed?
Yum.
If he looks...
It's better to starve than succumb. It's better to starve than succumb.
Just so you don't miss out on any more updates, make sure to be subscribed to this channel. And also, if this does good enough, of course, I'll keep updating you on this AU. And make sure to go check out her channel and her TikTok. Hopefully she comes over to YouTube because honestly, TikTok does not pay like that. And she's very talented. This AU was top tier. And physically show her support in her DMs or her comments so that she keeps on doing this and she keeps on grinding because
you guys have been asking me to cover the My Little Worms infection AU for a while now, and I was actually surprised seeing the full thing. It was actually a lot better than I thought, but be warned that there is a lot of foul language in this one and some dark topics like cannibalism and just general body horror. Now, the version of this AU that I was looking at was created by a person on TikTok called My Little Worms English, but there may be a Spanish version out there as well. And it starts off with Twilight standing in a hospital here, and the first thing that we learn is that Twilight no longer has access to her magic because it seems like she's been overdoing it. She states that she spent the last 24 hours trying to use her magic to help other ponies, many of which have been acting weird. They have become aggressive, they always seem to be hungry, and most of them can't sleep, and they have these terrible tempers now. In the next chapter, we see that Twilight is in the library and 3 days have passed, and Twilight has started to notice that some of her friends are showing symptoms of the virus already. The main one mentioned here being Rarity. And when we swap over to her perspective, we see that one of her eyes has this strange dark spot around it, and while she is trying to look strong, she's obviously not doing well. We also get to see just how sick she is right after she asks about her cat, and then she lunges at Twilight and leaves a wound on her snout. The weird thing about this is that her manic episode ends as quickly as it started, and Rarity seems to not even realize that she just attacked her friend. Something else that Twilight points out is that when Rarity attacks her, she can see worms coming out of Rarity's eyes and other holes that have been made in her scalp, implying that the worms are eating her alive from the inside out, likely starting with her brain, which may be the reason that Rarity doesn't seem to know what's happening right now. And while it may seem like this encounter wasn't helpful, in actuality, Twilight did learn a few things here. The first one being that she may be infected since Rarity did attack her, but for now, she will have to wait and see. The other thing is that the bloody stain that she saw on Rarity's floor is likely opal, which means that Rarity likely ate her own cat. Or maybe someone else did. After Twilight ponders this information for a bit, we see that Fluttershy appears and seems to be pretty healthy still, even though she has a wound on her leg, likely given to her from Pinkie Pie. And when Twilight tries to ask about it, she avoids the question, implying that she may be immune in this AU, which I'm hoping for, because Fluttershy usually gets screwed over in these AUs, if we're being honest. In the next scene, we see Fluttershy having a flashback where it's her and Pinkie in the Sugar Cube Corner bakery, and we see that Pinkie is trying to take a bite out of Flutter because she's hungry, and even though they're surrounded by bread and treats, Pinkie only seems to want to eat pony flesh. And by the looks of it, Flutter was able to escape with only taking one bite. We then see Twilight admit that she is also likely infected, and even Spike is sick. And sadly, it seems like the worms have started eating Spike's vocal cords, which is why he is unable to speak very well. And to put a point on this, we then see him vomit, spitting up a whole heap of worms. The chapter ends with Twilight looking at the worms that Spike threw up and wondering if she can eat them, showing that she is definitely infected and her hunger is starting to consume her. And just as a side note, I was also really hoping that Spike would get a break in his AU because he's also one of those characters that always gets infected or gets eaten. Can we get a justice for Spike in the comments? Next, we cut over to Pinkie again, and now she's at Rarity's home, and the first thing that I notice is that one of Rarity's eyes is completely gone at this point, which means that these worms are really chewing my girl down. And speaking of chewing down, Pinkie is here because she is looking to take a bite out of Rarity. But Rarity's brain is so full of holes at this point that all she can think about is her cat, and I'm sorry for my animal lovers, but there's a 99% chance that that cat is dead. But while Rarity is thinking about that cat, Pinkie is unable to hold her hunger anymore, and she ends up lunging at Rarity, taking off some of her skin. And while this sucks for Rarity, we do learn that Rarity's infection is at the medium-high stage, which makes me kind of afraid to see what the infection looks like at the highest level. Next, we cut over to Rainbow Dash, who I was surprised to see is still healthy, although she is super tired at the moment. She's been flying around all day, trying to tire herself out so that she can actually fall asleep, because she seems to have insomnia. Now, while she's doing this, she ends up crashing into the ground and breaking one of her legs and both of her wings. But luckily for Rainbow, we see that Applejack is nearby and has been hiding away, managing to avoid the infected. Seeing the cabin that AJ's in, Rainbow rushes over to see who's inside, and even though AJ is scared, she decides to open the door for her. And while AJ doesn't trust Rainbow at first, she does give her a room to sleep in, cleans her wound, and she also gave her food. And when you really think about it, I'm not surprised that AJ did this because in the original show and in most of the AUs, AJ does seem to have a soft spot for Rainbow, and in many AUs, they actually end up as like a couple. Now, back over with Twilight, Spike, and Fluttershy, we see that Spike suggests that he and Twilight lock themselves in one of the hospital rooms so that they won't infect anyone else, but also so that they can document the effects of the infection and possibly find a cure, which is kind of a good idea because it seems like most of the ponies keep their minds for a bit even after being infected, but this does leave Fluttershy out by herself, and now that she's alone, she reveals that she knows that this virus is being caused by animals, meaning the regular wildlife and not the talking animals. And it seems that Flutter's connection with the animals is what's keeping her from being affected by the worms, or at least that's what she makes it seem like here. It almost sounds like she's built up some type of anti-parasitic in her blood or something, but it's hard to say because Fluttershy may not know what she's talking about. Fluttershy also confirms that she's been bitten by Angel, which is her little bunny friend, and is still not infected, which may be the reason that she believes that she's immune. But what's more important here is that the reason that she isn't sharing this information with the other ponies is because she's afraid that they're going to put her in a lab and use her as like a test subject, which honestly, while it's kind of selfish of her, I understand. We all remember quite well what happened to Bluey in the Sacrifice AU.
There appears to be
Michael? I think we might have to watch that.
Something else that I find interesting is that Pinkie seems to be the first pony to realize that Flutter is hiding something, but since the worms are rapidly eating her brain, she's unable to really act on this information. Back over with Dash and AJ, we see that Rainbow no longer has insomnia, and more importantly, she isn't infected. We also learned that the reason that Rainbow wasn't eating was because all the food in the town is infested with worms, the only exception being AJ's orchard. Dashie also mentioned Pinkie talking about Rarity's cat, which has popped up in conversation so much so far in this AU, and Dash even highlights how Pinkie has been acting weird, only for us to switch over to her point of view and see her face completely covered in blood. It looks like Pinkie has finally really lost control and is eating Rarity and Honest now, which is why we see her all mauled and mutilated on the floor here. Now, after that gory scene, we get to see Twilight again, and at this point, her mind is almost completely gone. The worms are definitely eating her insides, at least the inside of her face and skull, and she's also started eating little pieces of herself. Spike, on the other hand, is so fed up with all these worms crawling under his face that he started to pull out his own eyes, and we can literally see the worms still moving around in the empty sockets. And if all that wasn't bad enough, once Spike pulled out his eyes, Twilight went and ate them, showing us that this AU is definitely going to be gross, especially considering that we're still pretty early in the AU. The most important thing that we learned from Twilight here, though, is that Celestia and Luna are gone, leaving Twilight a note basically saying that they're going to let her and the other ponies handle this situation while they go somewhere safe, showing that in this AU, they are absolute scumbags. But at least Princess Cadance decided to stay, so maybe she'll be able to help some people in the future. And speaking of Princess Cadance, in the next chapter we get to see her, Discord, and Zakara are all together. And when I saw this, I got kind of happy because Zakara and Discord for sure are a very strong combination and are likely going to be able to come up with a cure. And having Cadance there with her magic is just a boon in my opinion. But Discord kind of puts my mind in check when he says that it's not going to be easy to get rid of this parasite because the worms are in the food and they're in a bunch of different ponies as well, and they can spread it. So unless they just want to destroy the food supply and all the infected ponies, they're going to have to really sit down and come up with a solid plan. And honestly, I don't think that Discord is evil enough to actually just destroy everybody, even though he may have the ability to do that or like send them to another dimension. Next, we go back over to Fluttershy and we see her talking about the different levels of infection. We have people like Spike who have the worms in their stomach, and then those worms move over to different parts of their body. And then we have people like Twilight who just have the worms like around her face area because she was punched in the nose by Rarity. And all this basically means is that Twilight has a slightly better chance of keeping her sanity for longer, although I'm not sure how well that's going to work out right now. Now, while Flutter is explaining all this, we see Pinkie sneaking up behind her, but she doesn't realize until Pinkie is pretty much right on top of her. And then Pinkie is able to take a bite out of one of Fluttershy's wings. But the thing that surprised me most is that Shy then pulls out a shotgun. Surprise, motherfucker! And puts a hole right through Pinkie's chest. And while this doesn't seem to take Pinkie out, it definitely slows her down. Now,
what?
Bro, damn, Fluttershy just shot Pinkie Pie with a damn shotgun.
Back over with Rarity, she is surprisingly back on her feet, and the way that she does it is crazy. In this flashback, we see that after Pinkie took some chunks out of her, she told her to sew herself back together, and it looks like she actually does it. And while I know that Rarity is a fashion designer and good with a sewing machine, this is just wild. But if we had any doubts that these ponies are basically zombies now, this clears it up. Rarity is basically that zombie chick from The Nightmare Before Christmas. After that scene, we jump back over to Shy and see that she managed to escape Pinky, but is bleeding pretty badly from her wing. And in order to avoid getting an infection, she's thinking about cutting off her wings. And conveniently, Starlight appears out of the woods and offers to give Shy some pain medication and to cut her wings off. And I'm sure I don't have to tell any of you here, but it was agonizing for Shy. It would be like a human getting their hands cut off, basically. And while the amputation goes well, I hate how sad Fluttershy looks here. During their conversation, we also learn that the parasite seems to be affecting Pony's ability to use magic, which freaks Shy out because this means that Discord may also be affected, which confirms that the two of them definitely probably has something to do with this outbreak. The one good thing that we learn here is that Sunset has arrived in this universe as well, and since she is on par with Twilight in terms of power, this could be a very good thing for the ponies. Now, speaking of Twilight, we jump back over to her perspective and see that she has actually made some progress on a cure. Apparently, one way to get rid of the worms is to simply remove them from the infected location before they lay eggs, meaning that as long as a pony doesn't eat infected food and get worms in their stomach, there's a good chance that they can remove the worms or the limb that is infected. The next scene looks like it's taken directly from an episode, but it reveals what happened not only to this dang cat, but also to Sweetie Belle, who has been absent from this AU up until this point. We see that in this flashback, Sweetie Belle asks her sister to go get food because she's hungry, so Rarity does so, going to the shop that Pinky works at and even inviting her to come eat with them. Once Pinky and Rarity get back home, they see that Sweetie Belle has eaten Opal and is clearly infected, possibly being the first pony to be infected. And then we see this creepy scene. And I think that this is the moment that Pinky probably realized that an outbreak is happening and that she may already be infected. And just as a side note, I wish we would get a My Little Pony AU where the babies survive. Sweetie Belle specifically always kind of gets screwed over. Now, back over with Rainbow and AJ, they have decided to leave the safety of their home so that they can try to find AJ's family. While Granny probably doesn't have a good chance of surviving, I think that Big Mac and Apple Bloom have a pretty good chance because they're still young and strong, obviously. We also get to see that Fluttershy and Starlight are able to meet up with Sunset, and we get to see this message Princess Celestia sent to her, basically pleading for help. And the thing that really stood out for me here is that Sunset says, "Will Twilight be okay? I'm in her debt for everything, and if she's in danger now, I need to help her." This caught my attention because it shows that Sunset feels like she owes Twilight, so I wonder how she's going to react when she sees how far gone Twilight already is. And speaking of Twilight, we see that at this point in the story, the worms have eaten so much of her brain that she has started to develop dementia type symptoms, meaning that she started to lose her memory, her ability to critically think, the vision of one of her eyes is gone, and she basically went from being one of the people who are actually trying to find a cure to being a person that is just constantly talking and arguing with herself. And if that wasn't bad enough, she started to vomit everywhere in this room again and again, and then slurping it back up, which actually makes me sick to my stomach. I do not do vomit. But if that wasn't gross enough, she's also eating other bodily waste, we'll say. Doo-doo, baby! And finally, after being locked in this room for a while, Twilight has finally escaped and has ventured out into the world. Now, back over with Sunset, we see that she asks Starlight if they can speak alone for a moment, and we see that the two of them already know that Shy is immune. Along to use Shy's blood to make a cure, but then we get a curveball. You would think that these wings would be enough to create a cure since, you know, her blood is literally in them, but Sunset apparently wants to use all of Fluttershy. Now, luckily, Flutter hears this and is able to take a shot at Sunset, obviously not wanting to be used as a lab rat, but to my surprise, Sunset eats the bullet, chases Shy down, and then knocks her out, which is absolutely insane. I feel like she deserves to be captured if you can't get away from somebody that you literally shot in the leg. I honestly didn't realize that Sunset was just built like that. And obviously, Fluttershy didn't either, considering how devastated she looks tied up in this chair. And if that wasn't bad enough, Sunset then pulls out a butcher knife, saying that she's going to basically chop Shy up for a cure, and her reasoning goes like this. She says, "Don't think that I'm the bad guy in this story. You are the disgusting rat that has no compassion for others. It doesn't matter if you die along the way. I'll use your whole body for a cure." And in a weird way, I kind of understand what Sunset is saying here. Shy might actually be the answer to finding a cure, and she has known this from the very beginning and has stayed quiet. And while this is a selfish move, it was because she feared being used as a test subject and dissected for a cure, basically, which is a fear that Sunset is proving to be true right now. So put down in the comments what you think. Was Fluttershy right to hide her potential immunity, or do you think that she was being selfish? Now, luckily, before Sunset can start cutting, we see Starlight sneak up behind her and put a knife to her neck, letting her know that she's going too far. Now, while all that drama is happening, we cut back over to Dashie and AJ, who are still wandering around the woods. While walking, they see an infected pony eating a corpse, and Dash decides to sneak up behind it and take it out. And while she is successful, she ends up getting a wound on her ear, and AJ has to chop it off. But Rainbow doesn't seem to be upset about it, especially after AJ gives her a kiss for being so brave, showing that this is going to be another AU where Apple Dash is definitely a thing. After sharing that kiss, the pair continue on and end up finding a pony that has been torn apart, but more importantly, they find a gun. Feeling more confident now, the pair continue to search for AJ's family and shelter, but they don't have any luck until that night.
What?
And this is where they see Apple Bloom wandering through the forest with some infected ponies in the background. And while I can't tell who this is, I know that this is Redheart, and it's sad to see that she's already infected because a nurse would be really valuable right now. But AJ is just happy to see her sister, and Apple Bloom ends up running over to her, and they have a short reunion. But soon they realize that there are way too many infected around, so AJ stays behind to buy Rainbow and her sister some time to escape. But it seems like the darkness made AJ actually underestimate just how many infected were out in these woods, and she is soon overrun. And her last words go like this: "Dear Dashie, you will be my last sigh and my last breath, and without a doubt, the last beat of my heart are all yours." Can we get a rip in the comments for Applejack? She actually went out like a G. After that sad scene, we see Twilight walking through the crowd of infected, crazy as ever, but once she sees AJ, she comes back to her senses for a moment. And this is where we learn that AJ is technically still alive, but fading fast. But since Twilight is so far gone, she isn't actually able to do anything to help here, basically forgetting who AJ is after a few seconds and leaving her to bleed out in the woods. And I think this right here was just meant to show us that Twilight is continuing to fall deeper into her insanity, while also being a bit of a special case among the infected. While most of these other ponies are just acting like zombies, Twilight is like in some weird in-between spot. And I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out as we get deeper into these chapters. Now, back over with Sunset and Starlight, we see that Sunset is still hell-bent on cutting Shy up because the only thing that she cares about right now is saving Twilight, and she's even willing to die for the chance to be able to butcher Fluttershy, showing that she's pretty crazy in her own right. She also reveals how mad she is at Princess Celestia for abandoning her people and leaving this mission up to her. And then we get to see both Princess Luna and Celestia here, and they're hiding out in some type of snowy area, but they're at odds with each other. Princess Luna wants to go back and help the ponies, while Celestia feels like there's nothing that the two of them can do, especially since they don't have access to magic anymore. Celestia feels like they'll be attacked by the infected and the clean ponies alike because people are going to want them to be able to help even though they can't really do anything. Celestia also reveals that Cadance didn't just stay behind because she was a good person, but rather because her husband and child are both infected and she didn't want to leave them behind. Back over with Twilight, we see that she's made it back to the hospital and is looking for Spike, briefly forgetting that she's already devoured him. We also get to see her arguing with herself here, giving off this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type vibe. And while that is happening, we get to see Rarity and Pinkie are still together, but the both of them are pretty much insane at this point. And Rarity is also blind to boot. But I guess one good thing is that they still have each other and are still able to communicate kinda, even though they're not really making a lot of sense. In the next chapter, we get introduced to Trixie, or aka the Great Trixie, and she has been cataloging information about them.
Saw her say you own or something.
Your own sister and your own cat.
That makes no sense.
While Celestia feels like there's nothing that the two of them can do, especially since they don't have access to magic anymore. Celestia feels like really making a lot of sense.
Look.
In the next chapter, we get the only thing that she cares about right now and Pinkie are still together, but the both of them are pretty much insane at this point. And Rarity is also blind to boot. But I guess one good thing is that they still have each other and are still able to communicate kinda, even though they're not really making a lot of sense.
Look, Emily.
Eating your cat and your cat was eating her.
In the next chapter, we get introduced to Trixie, or aka the Great Trixie, and she has been cataloging information about the infected. A lot of this information is already known by us because we have seen like how aggressive the ponies can be and also the worms crawling under their skin. But Trixie also makes a list of confirmed symptoms that she's seen herself. And on the list here, we have high fever and chills, loss of appetite and weight, change in the animal's fur color and texture, bleeding from the eyes and mouth, loss of consciousness and speech, or becoming super aggressive. Cannibalism and necrophagy, which just means that the infected ponies will eat either alive ponies or dead ponies. They really don't care. And if all that wasn't bad enough, the infected also have resistance to pain, which kind of explains how Pinky was able to take that shotgun shell to the chest. We also learned that the infected ponies can mutate based on their environment, and this can actually make them grow in size and strength, grow claws and fangs, form hives, or aka like zombie swarms, create spores out of their bodies like in The Last of Us, and the infected are also resistant to medicine, which means that a vaccine may not be very likely. Now, while Trixie is speaking into the camera, giving out all this good information, we see Twilight creeping up in the background. But luckily, Trixie sees her and is able to turn around and confront her. But to my surprise, Twilight is actually able to speak with Trixie and tell her how to save her, or aka how to pick the worms out of her face meat. And hopefully it isn't too late, because I would love to actually see Twilight survive for once. Now, after Trixie sees that Twilight is still somewhat lucid, they end up teaming up and they start to head someplace clean so that Trixie can start to remove the worms. Although she makes it clear that if Twilight attacks her, she won't hesitate to put her down. But Twilight is able to keep herself together long enough to get to a cabin where Trixie can actually perform the operation. And I'm happy to say that the operation went well, although Twilight still can't really see out of one of her eyes. Now, this next part is kind of weird, but we see Rarity and Pinkie Pie again, and they seem to have progressed even deeper into the infection. We see their eyes start to bug out, their mouths are like disformed, and they have these sharp sideways teeth here, which really stand out because horses' teeth are usually flat. The pair then start to vomit up worms, showcasing that they are being devoured from the inside out, just like some of these other ponies. But I think more importantly, it shows that they may be like a new type of mutation as well. And I have a feeling that these two specifically are going to play a big role in the future. In the next chapter, we see that Apple Bloom and Dash are together, but Bloom is starting to get tired. Seeing this, they end up finding an abandoned house, and while Dash keeps watch, Apple Bloom goes to check to make sure the house is safe, which Dash is a absolute scumbag for allowing the baby to go like search the house. That's crazy. But it seems like she's so sad about the loss of AJ that she isn't really thinking clearly, and she even seems to have like some hate for Apple Bloom, as if she thinks that AJ's death is her fault. And while Dash is thinking about all of this, Bloom runs back into the room saying that there's something chasing her, forcing the two of them to go hide. And luckily, their hiding spot works for a bit, because as you can see here, Bloom's fatigue level is almost at max, and she got injured while running away, and her pain meter is almost maxed out as well, meaning that she needs to rest for a while. Seeing this, Rainbow goes to go check and see if the infected are still there, and then we see this image of Rarity and Pinkie merged together, which explains what was actually happening to them in the previous chapter. Understanding that AJ is never coming back and that Apple Bloom will only slow her down, Dash decides to leave Bloom behind, which I have to say really ticked me off. Put in the comments, do you think that Dash made the smart move by leaving Bloom behind, especially considering that she's injured and a kid, or do you think that she's a scumbag like me? In the next part, we get to go back over with Sunset, and we see that she started actually working on Fluttershy in an attempt to get a cure. And after she basically butchers Shy, she learned that Fluttershy wasn't even immune at all. Apparently, Fluttershy already had a kind of parasite in her body before the outbreak even began, and that parasite has been eating any of the others that try to get into the body. So while she may not be immune, depending on what kind of parasite is inside of her, maybe this information can still be helpful, although I hate how she was basically tortured in this AU for no reason in the end. Now, while Sunset and Starlight are looking over Shy's body, we see Trixie arrive at the base with Twilight, and when she sees what they actually did to Shy, she turns back into crazy Twilight. But before she can start raising hell, Trixie knocks her out, and the ponies decide that she's too valuable to actually kill, so they decide to lock her up in one of the little rooms so that they can run tests on her. After that, we get to cut back over with Rainbow, and we see that she has some regret about leaving Apple Bloom behind, but not enough regret to actually go back for her. And while she's wandering through the woods, she ends up running into two ponies who I believe are named Coco and Tree Hugger, and they offer Rainbow a place to stay at their camp. And for some reason, Tree Hugger was very rude and even ends up slapping Coco, which was odd for me because in the show, she was like the most chill, hippie type character in the whole show.
You're really bumming me out. Can you just, like, lower your voice a skosh?
And while this does make Dash uneasy, she still ends up staying with them in the camp, but it doesn't last very long. After 5 days, we see the zombie version of Apple Bloom come back to camp, and Tree Hugger gives Rainbow a pistol and tells her to handle it. Now, something interesting about Applejack that we don't actually get to see in this series, but the creator has confirmed, is that even while she's a zombie, she's still basically like roaming around looking for her family. It seems like her desire to keep everybody safe has even persisted into death, which just makes me so sad because I really wanted AJ to live. And back in the chapter, we see Rainbow actually hesitating to take a shot at Applejack because of course we know that Rainbow loves her. But Tree Hugger doesn't care about this and she keeps prodding, telling her to pull the trigger, shoot, shoot, shoot. And it seems like Rainbow does take a shot. But then we cut to 4 months later and we learn that Rainbow didn't actually shoot AJ, but rather she shot Tree Hugger. And in Rainbow's defense, Tree Hugger didn't actually specify who she needed to shoot. Now, while I don't really like Tree Hugger in this series thus far, I do see that she ended up losing a leg here from the bullet wound. And to make matters worse, it looks like Dash, Coco, and Tree Hugger had to leave their camp. And I have a feeling that Tree isn't going to last much longer, especially with a missing leg. And I feel like I jinxed her because here in the next chapter, we see that the trio is walking through this residential area and they smell something horrible in the air. And in the background, we can see this infected creeping up on them. And it took me a moment to recognize that this again is Rarity and Pinky. Now, once the trio actually spots the monster behind them, Tree Hugger surprises me again by pushing Coco in the way of the monster so that she can escape. But even though she tried to sacrifice her, it looks like Coco and Dash were able to stick together and escape anyway. But I think this was a really stupid move by Tree Hugger because now she's basically in the woods by herself and she's probably not going to last very long. Now, while the duo is trying to find a safe place to rest, we cut back over to Twilight and Sunset and we see that Twilight is locked up and Sunset is actually observing her and running some type of test. Sunset believes that she's helping Twilight, but it seems like she's just keeping her medicated and withholding food if Twilight doesn't act right. And while Sunset does look healthy physically, in a way, she's acting just as crazy as Twilight, but she don't have like any worms in her head to justify it. The only good news we get here is that Fluttershy is still alive, although we don't know what shape she's in. But I'm sure we're probably going to see soon enough, and I imagine that she's going to be pretty cut up because of what Sunset did to her. Now, back over with Dash and Coco, we see that they found a pony that is from a camp that has resources to trade, although Coco didn't actually do any research into what kind of resources that camp has. And when they get there, they see that they have made a terrible mistake. Tree Hugger is literally roasting over an open fire, screaming for them to help her because she's going to be eaten alive. And while Tree Hugger was horrible in this AU, I don't really wish this fate on anybody. Yeah, boy. But before we can see what happens next, we cut back to a flashback of Apple Bloom, and she's still hiding in the spot that Dashie left her. And then she hears this voice of a pony basically saying that Dashie abandoned her and that she should come out of hiding now. And at first, I thought that this was going to be like an infected playing a trick on her, like in the cookie virus. But in actuality, it's Sugar Belle speaking with her. And it makes sense that Sugar would actually come looking for her since she is Big Mac's wife. And speaking of Big Mac, we see that he also appears soon after and is uninfected and geared out pretty good. Unfortunately, we can't say the same for Sugar, who starts to cough uncontrollably after Big Mac arrives. And I feel really bad for Mac, especially after his wife tells him that she's sick. And this is how he replies. He says, "Please don't tell me that. I just barely found you again. I don't want to lose you too." In the next chapter, we get to see Sunset and Twilight again, and it's time for Twilight to get another dose of medicine. But as Sunset places the needle of medication into Twilight's infected eye, suddenly magic returns to the world and a small earthquake occurs, making Sunset lose her balance and shoot all the medicine into Twilight's eye. This basically causes her eye to turn blood red and her head starts to pound before it completely explodes. And as quickly as it came, the magic leaves the world again. And I think this goes to show that whatever Sunset was giving Twilight wasn't actually helping her, but more likely killing her slowly. And this overdose basically just sped up that process. In the next chapter, we get to learn how the infection started, and as I thought, it has to do with Discord and Fluttershy. It seems like Fluttershy was tired of the way that ponies treated the regular non-speaking animals. Fluttershy basically wanted a way for regular animals to be on par with speaking animals, and Discord helps bring Shy's desires to life. He starts by giving Angel the ability to express her anger and pain, and then Angel goes and digs her teeth right into Fluttershy. And when Shy tries to tell Discord to take it back, he claims that his spell is already too far gone, and now all the animals are infected with this rage. At the end of the flashback, we're brought back to the present and we hear someone calling Fluttershy's name, and then we see this image of her with all the skin and fur removed from her face, giving us a small glimpse into what Sunset did to her, and also confirming my belief in Sunset being absolutely insane in this AU. Next, we get a better look at Fluttershy, and her face is completely covered in wraps, and we hear Sunset say, "Are you aware that all of this started as a consequence of your little game?" And Fluttershy responds by asking, "Are you here to hurt me again?" We then see Sunset tell her to take off the bandages, giving us a good look at the torture that Sunset actually put her through. And she seemingly has no remorse for it because she feels like this is all Fluttershy's fault, when in reality, Discord is really the person that deserves the blame. Now, back with Dash and Coco, even though they see Tree Hugger being roasted alive, they just decide to leave. And in a way, I don't blame them for not caring about Tree, considering how she behaves in this AU and the fact that she left them to die. But what did catch me off guard was the fact that Rainbow calls Coco Apple, showing that she's still thinking about it. And Coco is so desperate to be loved that she doesn't correct Rainbow, and even seems to want to take the place of AJ if she can. In the next scene, we even see Coco try to call Rainbow Dashy, which she cuts down immediately. But before they can actually talk about it, Rainbow hears something moving in the woods, forcing the pair to take cover. And then we see this pony in the distance that has multiple eyes like a spider, but apparently has mutated to give up hearing for better vision. In the next chapter, we see that the pair end up getting separated for a moment, but quickly reconnect, but this is where their relationship starts to break down. Coco gets Rainbow to open up about how she lost Applejack, and even gets Dash to let her act as a replacement friend. But in her excitement, Coco starts to scream with joy, which causes Dash to scold her and yell as well. And this is where we and Dash can start to see that Coco is not really meant for this new world. She is way too happy-go-lucky and doesn't pay attention to her surroundings, and will likely attract infected with all the noise that she makes. But Rainbow decides to keep her around for just a bit longer because she's also desperate for friends. In the next chapter, the pair find a beach and start to search around for any ponies or supplies. But while this is happening, Coco keeps yelling out Dashy over and over again until Rainbow finally snaps, telling her to stop using the nickname that was only meant for AJ to call her. And also just to keep her voice down. But instead of listening, Coco ends up losing it, and not only does she keep yelling, but she knocks Dash down, and she tells her that she never wants to see her again. But after that little fight there, it looks like they may make up for a moment, but once Rainbow confesses to leaving Apple Bloom and also reveals that she doesn't love Coco the way that she loved Applejack, Coco decides to split. And honestly, while Rainbow is a scumbag in this AU, I don't think that she was wrong about Coco or wrong to like split ways with her. Coco is the worst type of person that you would want in a zombie apocalypse.
Mom, let me finish.
In the next
the
chapter, we
video.
see that a month has passed and Coco found a little abandoned town to hold up in. And one day she hears somebody or something moving around outside. When she goes out to investigate, she sees this emo pony who I believe is named Inky Rose. And even though these two are polar opposites in personality, they seem to hit it off and become friends. Rainbow, on the other hand, has made her way to a settlement with other ponies and seems to be living a fairly good life for the moment, even though her life seems pretty boring. But in my opinion, if you're safe enough to feel bored in a zombie apocalypse, I would say that you are probably blessed. Now, it looks like Dash is working for Flynn and Flam, and when she goes to check in with the pair, they have some information for her. They tell her that two ponies by the name of Big Mac and Apple Bloom are in town, and judging by the look on her face, she knows that this is not going to be a happy reunion. But determined to meet this issue head on, Rainbow goes to meet with them. And when she sees them, she tries to give Apple Bloom a hug, only to get kicked by Big Mac, saying, "How dare you approach her after all you've done, you scoundrel." And while Mac is right for calling Dash out and even giving her the kick, it seems odd that they were obviously looking for her and asking around for her, only to get mad when she approaches. I understand wanting a little revenge, but I feel like there are more important things to be doing during this outbreak. But it seems like they needed to put a little bit of a hurting on Rainbow for them to be able to get over the betrayal.
Hey, bitch, I'm back the fuck up. I don't know you. You doing too much horsing around.
In the final chapter of the series thus far, we see Sunset out in the woods, and she seems to be hunting down infected ponies, literally cutting the heads off this one and then moving on to her next victim, which is called a howler apparently, because it lets out this ear-splitting cry. And then I also realized that someone is speaking to Sunset, saying, "Great, Sunset." And then she replies with, "Will this be enough for you, Twilight?" Making me think that she's probably hearing Twilight's voice in her head, likely due to the guilt that she feels for being the reason that Twilight is no longer alive. So now Sunset is basically gathering body parts so that she can make some kind of like Twilight
just saying it's more
Frankenstein
than an
monster,
hour, so I
or at
can't-
least that's my theory as of right now.
Pause it.
Now, some of you may be wondering what happened to Cadence and Granny Apple, and I saved them until the end because they had such a small role in the series, and Cadence is really gross. Basically, we have two scenes with Cadence. The first is when she finds the corpse of her child here in the forest. And while we know that the child is infected and long gone, in Cadence's mind, the kid is still alive and well. And this also explains why she has been zero help in the series thus far. The second time that we see her is in this scene where she is under this tree speaking to her belly because she thinks that she's pregnant. But the thing that she gives birth to is just a big clump of worms. This basically shows us that not only is she crazy, but she's also infected. And honestly, this isn't even the worst part about her, but I will leave you to find the information about her husband and what she's doing with him. Next, we have Granny here, and while she has gone crazy, not in the same way that Cadence has. Even though we don't really get to see her in this series, apparently she was in the camp that was roasting Treehugger over the fire, and the reason that she's alive is because zombies are actually afraid of her. And I do like the idea of this Granny being so ornery that, you know, zombies are even afraid of her, so I'm happy to see that she actually is surviving. All in all, I think this AU wasn't bad, but it was a bit gross for my taste. I'm curious though to see what they do with the ending. While I don't like Rainbow in this AU, I would like to see if she ends up getting infected, and more importantly, if Discord would do anything about the plague that he started. I also want to know what happens with Twilight, because it seems like there's an interesting thread going on here with her and Sunset, or if Sunset is just flat out crazy now. But with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this video on the screen here, subscribe today to become a member of the Oris Force, and we will see you tomorrow with another video. Peace, peace.
Okay, guys. Emma, you want to say bye? I don't know if you said bye. Okay. Guys, I'm ending the video here. Bye-bye.
Bye.